I've been in just under 5 years, and during that whole period I have dedicated my time to reporting members of Parliament for corruption. You will hear people say that, oh, the Daily Telegraph exposed them all, it's all down to the Daily Telegraph, or it's all down to the Mail on Sunday. The problem is, it's all right for newspapers to expose people, MPs, but unless a third party actually reports it to either the Metropolitan Police or the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, nothing gets done. They are not proactive, they are reactive. And the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards will go out of his way not to report MPs. There was until I'd started reporting MPs, there was nothing laid down whereby the Parliamentary Commissioner had a duty to report to the police any evidence of corruption by a Member of Parliament. He could just deal with it in his own way. And that's what's been happening for year after year after year. And to my knowledge, the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards has only ever referred one MP to the police, and that's a chap called Dennis McShane, who hates the British National Party with a vengeance. And the only reason he referred it to the Metropolitan Police, because I wrote to him and told him that I had reported Dennis McShane to the police for alleged fraud. And that investigation is still going on, by the way. It could well be that Dennis McShane may well end up in a criminal court for alleged fraud. I am the person responsible. People say, well, how do you know it's you? Well, I do know it's me because the police write to me and tell me I'm the complainant. I'm the complainant in all 4 cases where 4 Labour MPs have been convicted of fraud, and 3 are currently sitting in prison. I was partly responsible for Michael Martin, the leader of the House, having to stand down. After what happened with Conway, I then reported Martin to the Parliamentary Commissioner for misuse of air miles. Well, the establishment were never, ever going to let a member of the British National Party be responsible for bringing down the leader of the House, something that hadn't happened in 300 years. And so my complaint against him was NFA'd, no further action. But I've probably been responsible, and I'm not being egotistic here, I'm just stating facts as they are, probably been responsible for at least 20 members of Parliament either having to pay back money, stand down at the last election, or end up in prison. I was the complainant against David Laws, the Minister, who only this week they decided to take no further action. Now, Mr Laws' defence was that he, although he was claiming a second home allowance, he kept the fact secret because he didn't want to expose his homosexuality. Now, my answer to that, he's a millionaire, by the way, my answer to that, in the Lib Dems, very few people in the Lib Dems were ever aware of where David Laws lived. Nobody knew where he lived. He didn't tell anybody anything. And my answer to the fact that he didn't actually tell the Parliamentary Commissioner who he was paying, it was his partner, to protect his homosexuality, is a lie. If he wanted to protect his homosexuality or his sexuality, why claim the money? If he hadn't have claimed the money, nobody would have ever known. But he claimed £40,000, which he paid back. He admitted that when he was claiming that money, he knew he shouldn't have been claiming that money. To me, as a former police inspector, that is fraud, and he should be charged along with everybody else. Now, as I say, I seriously don't have a problem with people's sexuality. I just wonder, to me, the evidence against David Laws, for instance, was overwhelming. And yet we have the head of the Crown Prosecution Service, Keir Starmer, recently come out himself and admit that he's gay, and we've got a minister there, and you wonder what influence was being used with Cameron and Clegg wanting him back as a minister. So I don't think justice was done. What I can never come to terms with, one of the reasons that we don't go forward as a party is we always suffer from bad publicity. I don't know any newspaper that has ever given the British National Party credit for what they have done. And a classic example was just before the last general election, a couple of days before the election, when it was reported in the Star and the Sun and those types of newspapers that we wanted to send all the Gurkhas home. And that cost us thousands of votes. And it was reported to the Press Complaints Commission, and the papers had to apologise about 9 weeks after the election. And where was the apology? On page 22 at the top left-hand corner, when you always go to the right side of the newspaper. So the damage had been done, and then I was thinking to myself that the parliamentary expenses scandal was one of the biggest things that hit this country in years, and it was brought about by the British National Party. And I could never come to terms with the fact that whenever Nick Griffin or Simon Darby or any other prominent member of the leadership had the opportunity in the media, on television, on the radio, why did they never ever mention it? Exactly. I couldn't believe it. When we had candidates standing up in, I think, Barnsley and other places, I actually sent all the stuff up there. Ilsley, I think his name was, had to stand down. They had a by-election. So I sent all my correspondence up to prove that it was because of me reporting into the police that there was going to be a by-election. I said, you might like to put this on some leaflets. I'm sure it'll get us votes because people are very, very angry. Never. And I could never, ever think, well, why?